Josh Raven here with the Daily Dot at ELEAGUE in Atlanta, joined by Ryu, coach of Selfless, and I think what we do have to address is the 0-10, was it, run in ELEAGUE. Obviously it's not the result you were looking for, however there were some promising results. What do you think of your boys' performance here?
I mean, we tied Liquid, that's a good thing, right? No, I kid. Yeah, I mean, I think people collectively thought we played better than most people expected. We definitely had several opportunities to take maps off top 5 teams in the world. It's a little disappointing that we didn't close out. Still made a couple mistakes. Not a great showing for us in the win-loss column, but I think we played pretty well overall given that our group was as competitive as it was.
We'll talk quickly about your newest member, Connor. Obviously he came in, no one really knew what he was about, what he was doing. How do you think he performed considering the pressure and the circumstances?
We only had a handful of days of practice with Connor. He's known several of the guys on the team for almost a decade, so we thought it was going to be a good mix for us. He filled his role great. It definitely helped clean up our comms. With Uber, we had some times where we had to repeat strats, we had to constantly kind of remind him what he needed to do, and it became a little bit of a burden on myself as the coach and Mainline as our in-game leader. With Connor, he plays super aggressive, he fills that entry fragger role extremely well. He's willing to go in, he creates space, changes angles on the sights, and I think overall he did well.
Now looking at your kind of the stars of this tournament, if you will, people like Relics, Nifty obviously stepped up big. Since the departure of Kusta, many people saying that you maybe need someone to step up. It looks like they did. Are you going to be looking for similar performances from them in the future, or are you still team-oriented, everyone fills their role? Yeah,
I mean some maps Relics played great on and some guys didn't, and other maps Nifty stepped up a couple times. For us, we want to have a team that anyone can make that performance consistently. We would prefer that the guys play a consistent level of Counter-Strike, so we don't need to have highs and lows, but it's just not the nature of the game. So for us, it's always going to be about the team. If one day Relics is going to post up 30, maybe it's because someone's leaving some frags on the table that normally they would get. And if Relics has an off day, then maybe Mainline needs to step up, or that Mitch needs to step up. So we're always going to try to maintain that as the focus. It's kind of the core of the message that we deliver and what our culture is as a team. But it does certainly help when we have guys that have huge standout individual performances like that.
Now, we see you behind the team pretty much every game. You seem very vocal. You're one of the more talkative coaches, perhaps. Are you taking some sort of in-game leader role at all, or are you just kind of backing up what Mainline is saying in-game?
Yeah, so it depends on if I feel like I have a good read on a team, or if there's something. I do a lot of demo reviews and a lot of watching of certain teams. So there are some teams that, on some maps, that I feel very comfortable reading. If there's certain calls that Mainline makes that maybe I don't like or don't agree with given the situation, I'll overcall them a little bit. But for the most part, it's going to be Mainline calling, and then I'll chime in. I make some calls for players and stuff. I kind of fill in the gaps in real time as the round kind of plays out. Sometimes the player's shooting, and instead of shooting, they don't make their shooting instead of making a call. So I'll fill in that call like, hey, there's one here. Okay, he's dead, and just try to help in any way I can.
Okay, and quickly going back to the group, obviously you had those 2 close games against G2 and I think against NIP as well. What do you think were the defining factors that meant you guys couldn't finish off? Obviously they are top teams, but you guys did get really close to causing an upset.
Yeah, against G2, we 16-12 twice. On Cash, we lost both pistol rounds, and we lost, I think, 3 1v1s, so some really key rounds swung in their direction. We have a couple of really good set things on that map that the timing was just slightly off, so like flashbangs would come in and a teammate would peek into the flashbang instead of that half second after the flashbang goes off. So instead of getting like 1 or 2 easy kills, they got killed, and then we had to play retakes. We had some really nice set retakes that we've been drilling, and we missed nades in that process. So that was the first map of the tournament for us. I think nerves played a little bit of a factor there. On the second map against G2, not as many mistakes. The rounds were still, they kind of, anytime we had a chance to like break the economy and put them on a save, it seemed like they were able to force buy their way into a round win. Still really close, just a couple mistakes and a couple key rounds. Kind of the same thing, but you could definitely tell the guys settled in, weren't as nervous, weren't making those same kind of simple mistakes. And against NIP, we won, I think, every single pistol round against them. But their gun rounds, we only took a handful of gun rounds total against them. I think even Threat, the coach of NIP, said like we were all hitting our shots against them, but they were able to fall back on their tactics, and they weren't expecting us to be playing them that hard. A couple close rounds there, but just on the gun rounds, they were able to really put some distance on us.
And now, obviously, looking forward, it's quite difficult to obviously rank teams in North America with the state of things. But you guys did put up a good showing here, and ever since kind of DreamHack Austin, you've been this sleeper team getting better and better. And with all the changes happening, where do you see yourselves in that North American kind of hierarchy of teams?
Yeah, I mean, it's where the whole region is super uncertain right now. If you remove the South American teams and the Australian team and just look at the North American teams, CLG, I don't think they've announced their 5th yet. Energy just added a couple new players. Liquid's obviously going through some struggles, and maybe there'll be roster changes there. Cloud9 seems to be finding that, so I feel like they're probably at the top. But then kind of that tier 1.5, tier 2 space is super questionable, and I think there are times that we play like that tier 2. Maybe we get when we're playing our game at a tier 1.5 level, and sometimes we're at like a tier 2.5 and towards the bottom. So I don't know where I would rank us right now, because it's hard to say with not knowing if Connor's going to be able to full commit to the game as our 5th, and seeing all the rosters shuffling of the other teams. Just no idea how that's going to play out in the next couple of months.
You mentioned that when you are on your game, you can take on any Tier 1 North American team, but what is it that kind of makes you on your game? What are the key factors for Selfless to be performing at their best?
Certainly players need to hit their shots and remember certain positions and setups that we have. I think for us, and as a coach, I always prioritize defense, so CT side is super important to me. And in the past, like when we were able to beat Luminosity in a best of 3, our defense, our CT sides were super dynamic. The guys were hitting their shots, the teamwork, the coordination, everything was just on. And we feel it when we're playing like that. We feel like, okay, we're going to win these rounds, we're going to win these maps. When things are a little bit, just a little bit off, like I mentioned against G2 on Cash, like the timing of a couple flashbangs can be the difference between a round 1 and a round loss, which then can be the next 2 rounds depending on what the economy is like. So for us, it's just we have to play dynamic. We need the guys to consistently hit the shots and get the frags that they're supposed to. Like the 9 out of 10 kills, the 90% of the time you should win that 1v1 based on your positioning or crosshair placement, whatever it is. Those are the kills we must have. And then those 50-50s, we need to start swinging more towards 60-40s in our direction. When we do that, we play dynamic, everybody's kind of in sync, we can do a ton of damage.
Okay, and unfortunately the results here, despite the performance, does mean that you are out of ELEAGUE. Mm-hmm. So what's next for Selfless? What are you looking forward to in the future? What are you building towards next?
Yeah, I mean, we would love the opportunity to play Season 2 for ELEAGUE. This experience has been tremendous. Everyone from the commissioner to the staff to the producers, like everybody that we've dealt with here has been phenomenal. The way they've run this event has just been mind-blowing at times and a little surreal. So for us next, there's a gap in the Pro League season for ESEA, so we're kind of waiting on that. I think the next LAN event we have might be an event in Canada. Still don't know what the qualification process for DreamHack Montreal is going to be. So we've got about a month and a half, maybe 2 months to kind of situate our roster, make sure everything's set there, and then whatever opportunities we get, we're going to just jump on them.